clutching my IUD like I'm headed to war, is that like grabber thing. I know. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Sydney. I'm a perinatal athletic therapist and postnatal fitness specialist. Today I am sharing with you my IUD experience, which is a positive experience. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've probably seen many videos in regards to IUDs that are not super positive, and I do want to kind of shed some light on the positive side of things because I have had a great experience with mine. So I'm 3 years in with the Kyleena IUD, which I can have for 5 years. And I am going to walk you through the insertion process, the process of choosing which IUD to get, with meeting with my gynecologist, things I had to do beforehand. Like I'm gonna walk you through everything. Just gonna put a big old disclaimer here that this is not medical advice. This is a personal experience. I am just going to walk you through things that I did, things that worked well for me, and things that are working well for me, and my own experiences. I should also mention that some of the things I'm going to talk about in this video may be triggering. I'm going to put the timestamps at the bottom, so if you feel like you need to skip a section or you don't want to hear me talk about certain things, I'm also going to show you guys a video later on that is just like a model of an IUD being put in, so that if you are getting one, then you kind of understand what's about to happen. So if you don't want to watch those things, just skip to the next timestamp. As usual, I have my laptop beside me just so that I can kind of follow the notes that I've written down so that I'm not skipping anything, because I definitely want to make sure that I include as much detail in this video as I can. And what I also want to do is make sure that you guys are informed. And I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to, like, if I don't say something, I'm not trying to hide it. I just forgot to say it. I do think that it's important, if you are getting any medical procedure, that does not matter what it is, that you understand the procedure that you're getting and the risks that are also involved in the procedure that you are having done. And so this is honestly just a video to provide you with information so that you are informed in making a decision for yourself. Like I said before, I have had the Kyleena IUD for 3 years now, and based off of my personal experience, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It has been an amazing experience for me. It's wonderful to not have to think about taking a pill every day or anything like that. It's fantastic. So I'm just gonna read you guys what the Kyleena actually does. So the Kyleena IUD releases a hormone, I can't even say it, I'm just gonna write it here, into the uterus. It prevents pregnancy by thickening the cervical mucus and preventing sperm from entering the uterus, and the alteration of the endometrium, or the lining of the uterus, which is not favorable to a fertilized egg. For Kyleena specifically, it is 99% effective, and in that 1% possibility of pregnancy, the pregnancy may be ectopic, which is a medical emergency, and medical attention is needed. There are also risks to the pregnancy if the pregnancy is in the uterus and the IUD is still in place. So this will still require medical attention. This is, like I said, this is not to scare you. This is just so that you're informed. Now, what is an IUD? So an IUD is essentially a little device. I will insert a picture here so you can see what it looks like. It is 1.18 inches long. If I, hold on, let me get a tape measure. 1.18 inches long is that big. Like, this is my thumb. That's how big, that's how long the IUD is. It is tiny. I know the pictures make it look big and scary, but guys, it is tiny. And I do understand that this is inside your body. It's a foreign object that's inside your body, but I am going to insert a video here in a couple seconds that is going to show you the process of how the Kyleena IUD is placed in the body. So if you don't want to watch it, just skip over to the next timestamp. So essentially when they put in the IUD, it It looks terrifying. I'm going to tell you, it looks absolutely terrifying. And I will talk about the whole process in a moment. But just so you are aware, you have to pick up your IUD from the pharmacy. And it's going to come in this like long tubular box sort of thing. And it had like, the tube is like super long and like it looks so scary. But in showing you this video, this is how it's put in. And so to see how it's put in makes a lot more sense as to why it has to be in such like a long tubular thing. But essentially that is where the IUD sits in the uterus. That is how it's put in, etc., etc. Okay, so let's talk about the entire process. So I have talked about in a previous video that I had quite a few of hormonal issues. I will tag that video below, so I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it was very difficult for me to choose what type of contraceptive I wanted to use. I did not want to go on the pill. So an IUD was something I was kind of toying with, and at the time I was seeing a naturopath who was very willing. I was so thankful for this. She was very willing to talk to my family doctor and also my gynecologist about whether or not they thought an IUD was a good idea for me and which one, because there are multiple different ones to choose from. So if you are choosing an IUD, please make sure you pick the right one for you. Talk to your practitioners, talk to multiple practitioners and get multiple different opinions and kind of go from there. Prior to the insertion of my IUD, I had to have an internal ultrasound. This essentially provided my gynecologist with information as to what my uterus looked like, what my cervix looked like was my uterus tilted a certain way, what did my cervical opening look like, all of that wonderful information. So this provided my gynecologist with a bigger picture of information before the procedure even started, so that he knew exactly where he was going in terms of inserting the IUD. And essentially it made me more comfortable. I had the internal ultrasound, and I'm just gonna be straight up honest and upfront with you. My body hated that procedure. It is a very calm procedure. It is not scary. It is not painful. I don't know if I was just coming up to my menstrual phase or if my body just straight up hated the procedure, but I had the worst cramping of my life. Worst cramping of my life that afternoon after having the internal ultrasound. The cramping started a few hours afterwards, and I think they stayed for a few hours as well. They were equivalent to the worst cramps I've ever had. I was throwing up. I was basically in the fetal position on my bed the entire time. So I guess I'll never know as to whether or not I was entering my menstrual phase and those cramps were going to happen anyways, or if the cramps were because of the ultrasound. I don't know. But I had them and they were horrible. But they went away after a couple hours. And I was fine after that. Then I had a consultation with my gynecologist, who had been in contact with my naturopath and my family doctor. He basically verified that the Kyleena was a good idea for me. He walked me through the procedure. He gave me a script for a cervical softener and a painkiller. I don't know what they were, I'm gonna be honest. I wanna say the painkiller was an naproxen, but that's just the first one that's coming to my head. So I honestly don't even know. So they gave me a cervical softener and a painkiller. What I think is absolutely bizarre is that some people don't get either, which I can't quite fathom that. So for those of you who didn't have that, I am so absolutely sorry. I wish that you had been taken better care of. Let me know in the comments if you received any type of medication prior to your insertion to make it more comfortable for you, because I'm hearing from so many people that they didn't get that. So I went to pick up those medications as well as the IUD, and like I said, it comes in this like super long. So like I filled my prescription at Superstore, like at a grocery store, and so I'm walking through the grocery store just like holding on to like essentially like a lightsaber that has my IUD inside of it. They didn't give me a bag or anything, So I had to go over to the self-checkout and I'm like, can I just have a bag for this? Like, I don't want to be walking around just like clutching my IUD like I'm headed to war. Then the insertion part. This might be a little bit triggering for some people as well. So if you want to just skip right over this, feel free. The insertion process, from what I remember, was very, very fast. I want to say from the moment my gynecologist entered the room to the moment he left after the procedure was done, I want to say it was like a minute or a minute and a half. Like, it could not have been more than a minute and a half. It was so fast. Another thing I should mention about the insertion procedure is that they don't show it on every video, but they have these like this clamp that is kind of like this, and they use it to grab your cervix. And so it looks very scary because it's literally like a clamp like this that they just use to like grab your cervix. So that is kind of the scariest part, I think, is that like grabber thing. I know it has a name. I'll put a picture here. Keep in mind that I had taken the cervical softener a few hours before, and I had also taken the painkiller. So I probably did not experience nearly as much pain as most people would when it comes to getting an IUD inserted, especially for those who did not receive any medication. I'm also going to say, if you are going to get an IUD and they don't prescribe you with something, ask for it. Just ask for it. Straight up, just say, can I get some medication? I feel like they're typically pretty willing to just like hand out meds. I feel like every doctor does that. So just ask them for some medications, or take like a T3 with codeine or something before you go in. When it came to the actual insertion, I was laying on the table in the most comfortable position you could ever be laying in. You know what it's like. The best way I can describe it to you is, you know, that pressure that you experience when you're getting a pap smear. It's essentially that pressure with an added really sharp pain for about 5 seconds, a little bit more pressure, and then it's done. And I'm not gonna downgrade the pinch. You know how you see all these videos where they're all like, you're just gonna feel a little pinch. It's a painful pinch, but I'm telling you, if you can take a couple deep breaths through that pinch, it's gonna be over before you even know it. It is so fast, and yeah, it's very painful, but it is so fast. That was the procedure. Then 6 weeks after the procedure, I had to have another internal ultrasound so that they could verify that the IUD was in place where it needed to be. It hadn't moved. They essentially needed to make sure it was just where it needed to be. So that's the whole procedure of kind of start to finish, from when I got the internal ultrasound the first time, and then kind of through to getting the internal ultrasound the second time. Okay, so now I want to talk about the symptoms I experienced. So after about 2 months, my period went away almost completely. I think that is quite typical of the Kyleena IUD. That is not the same with the other ones. So look up what is going to happen or what is likely to happen, because some of them make your period go away and some of them don't. Like I said, it alters the uterine lining. So if it doesn't allow that endometrium to fully form, you're not going to have a full period. I had a little bit of spotting once every couple of months, and that's the same even now. Every couple months I have a little bit of spotting when my menstrual phase would be, and it typically only lasts like a day or so. This is the worst part of probably the entire experience over the past 3 years. For the first 3 months or so, I had some cramping. I would say it was at least once a day, and it lasted for a couple hours. But what I would say is I have had some really intense cramps in my lifetime. And if I'm rating the cramps I experienced after getting the IUD on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being worst cramps I've ever had, it was sitting at like a 3. Like a pretty annoying pain, like definitely noticeable, definitely like uncomfortable, but not anything debilitating by any means. That happened basically every day for 3 months. They typically say wait 3 to 6 months and see how you're feeling, because sometimes it takes your body quite a while to adjust to the IUD. So I decided to just stick it out. I knew if I waited a little bit longer, then it would probably be fine. So I decided to wait. If the cramps are too uncomfortable for you, you have too much spotting or bleeding or whatever it is, go back to the doctor and talk to them about it. Mine was very, very minor, so I didn't see a reason in needing to go at that time. If it would have persisted for a lot longer than that, I probably would have gone to have a conversation with my gynecologist, but I didn't see a reason to at that time. The third symptom I had was weight gain. Now, I don't know if the weight gain that I experienced was from the IUD. It was also, so I got an IUD. It was during COVID. I was working for a horrible company at that time. I was not taking care of myself. So I don't know if the 40 pounds that I gained over that year, or 6 months, like I think it was 6 months to a year, I don't know if that weight that I gained was from the IUD or if it was just from everything else in my life that wasn't going well. So now, 3 years later, I experience a tiny bit of cramping and a tiny bit of spotting once every couple months. I don't experience it every month when my menstrual phase would be. I don't experience any other symptoms that are abnormal aside from the fact that I just don't have a period. Like I said in the beginning of this video, make an informed decision as to which IUD you would like to have. Talk to your practitioners about it. Don't make a decision on a whim. Don't do a quick Google search and just pick one. It can be quite life-changing to get something that isn't right for you. And I do think that it's super important to make the informed decision rather than just like picking one on a whim. So I have a couple Q&A questions that I wanted to add to the end of this video that I asked for on my Instagram. The first question is, do you still get a period with a hormonal IUD? This depends. Like I said earlier, it depends which one you get. They're all different. There's the copper one, which is non-hormonal, and then I think there's 3 that are hormonal. There honestly might even be more. So it honestly depends on you as an individual, and it depends on which kind you get. So if you are concerned about that, talk to your practitioners about it. Make sure that you know which one you're getting and what the effects that it could have on your body are. Know what the risks are and know what the symptoms that you may have afterwards are as well. The second question I got is, can you feel it? I would say no. I have never felt the string. I've heard some people say that they can feel the string. I have never felt that. It's like it's not even there, to be honest. I wouldn't say that I feel the IUD itself. I would say that my cramps feel maybe a little bit different than they used to. They're not that like generalized crampy feeling. They're more of a sharp localized cramp instead, if that makes sense. I am very, very body aware, so I know when something feels a little bit different. So the cramps definitely feel a little bit different, but I wouldn't say that I can ever feel the IUD itself. Like I said, an IUD, specifically the Kyleena IUD, is not for everyone. So make sure if you are choosing to get an IUD, you're making an informed decision. You're not doing it based off of what other people are doing. Make sure you make a decision that's right for you. If you guys have any other questions or comments that you'd like to add, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to talk to you guys about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a big ol' thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe and come and hang out for a while.